makes everything better.
Next,
we haven't
the
received
building that they
invite,
just,
but
we just
to
never
build,
seen it.
Got it.
Yeah, they're just starting to figure it out.
The one
I
in
talked
there.
to the DLA this morning.
Oh, he might have.
Stuff
Oh, there
actually.
used to be flyers.
Yeah.
And told us.
Yeah,
no, it was just a, it was just a big.
I was gonna wait till you were in your seat. Do you want me to?
Okay, no, the one that survived.
Take off until.
There was, fire was next to
It
it.
could be,
In this scenario.
and, yeah, so,
Is she the
and it's
pilot?
going to be, so,
Traffic control. Okay.
DeWitt is here,
Yeah,
and the new
Minute.
one that,
yeah, I
that,
remember the approval, right,
yeah, and he owns it.
Good evening and welcome. My name's Shannon Cox, and we bring our August 11th Planning Board meeting into session. We'll start with roll call. For staff, we have Shelley, and she is alone today, it appears. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Should the record also reflect that our city attorney is with us? I know that he's going to be joining us later in the agenda.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And will you call the roll? Yep.
Roger Dupree is absent currently. Michael Marcotte,
Present.
Lucy Bisson here. Mark Roy,
Here.
Amy Smith,
Here.
Alexander Pine,
Here.
Anthea Burns,
Here.
and Zoe Lidstrom,
Here.
I'm also here.
and Shannon Cox, sorry.
I mean, I started with that in the opening, so I didn't know if we were just mixing it up, keeping
Sorry.
people on their feet at home. Now you're good.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Are there any adjustments to the agenda
No.
and any correspondence that we should know?
No.
This is a straightforward, easy breezy August meeting. Please let the record reflect that we have no public hearings this evening either. So then we would open it up to other business, and we're going to begin our sole real agenda item is updates on legal developments and tax acquired property. Any intro that you'd like to offer? Shall we just welcome Mr. Carey up to the microphone?
Yes, that's fine. We'll just welcome Mike.
Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Mike Carey. I'm city attorney for the city of Lewiston. So I can, there's some information in your packet. I can kind of answer questions, or the tax foreclosure process in some ways is straightforward in that everyone is assessed real estate tax on property, assessed personal property tax. Businesses are assessed personal property tax on personal property. When the taxes aren't made when they're owed, there's a tax lien assessed. And after a period of time, 18 months, that's required by statute, the tax lien is automatically foreclosed. So you may be familiar with a real estate foreclosure and a mortgage. There's a long court case that goes along with that. This happens by action of statute. There are specific number of steps that the city has to take in the process, and if those steps aren't strictly the courts require the municipalities to follow those steps strictly, and if those don't happen, the foreclosure doesn't happen. It used to be that Maine was like 11 states that had absolute foreclosure provisions, which meant that if any amount of tax was owed and the foreclosure happened automatically, the municipality would become the sole owner of the equity of that property, and wiping out all of the underlying mortgages or any other lien holders, and could do with it what it wished. There was a Supreme Court case in 2023 that entirely changed that says that any excess proceeds have to go back to the homeowner. So there's been two different processes in Maine to define what that process is, how those excess proceeds get back to the homeowner. And so now we're on the second step, and the second step in that statutory process. So there's now, when the city has a tax lien foreclosure, it then goes to the real estate agent and puts it on the market as any other property, and would disclose the source of its title coming from a tax foreclosure in the listing, and when whoever buys it and through the closest approximation to a perfect market, then the city would go through after the sale would go through a period to determine what its costs are, and the excess costs are then returned back to the owner. There's a notice process that has to happen there so that the lien holders have a notice that that's happening, so that somebody doesn't, have a fully mortgaged property go in and let the city take it, and then take it back free of their former lien. So that's, in a nutshell, the changes. It seems it's a fairly simple decision. The implications of how to move forward with that is changes a lot in terms of how municipalities have operated for decades and probably hundreds of years in Maine. And so kind of the effect of how that's changing in municipalities and in kind of the public understanding of how municipalities now enforce their property taxes is that process is slower. So that's the upshot.
Nice job getting that in a nutshell. That's always impressive. I was absent at the last meeting, and so I'd look to the board to see if that answered the questions that was raised during the discussion at the last meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the, the question I had was, why would the municipality sell it for anything more than what is owed on the taxes, seeing as there's no incentive for the municipality to sell it, and at this point, beyond what is owed, seeing as it doesn't get any benefit from it. And the answer is because it's required by statute now that it has to be sold at the highest available price that the market will sell. And in fact, now there's a legal jeopardy that the city or the town has if it isn't sold at the highest price. The prior homeowner can bring a cause of action if it isn't sold at the highest price.
Potentially. I mean, I think from my perspective, the statute is it's not that confusing, but it's not straightforward, and complying with it is. But at least now there's a path and there's a safe harbor for what if you do these things, you can avoid the argument that it's not a proper sale.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So the engagement of a realtor means it's advertised out to the public,
Correct, on the MLS like any other property.
and probably in those cases, you're more apt to get a higher bid than the other processes. Because at the last meeting, I was remembering the processes that were in place prior to 2023.
Yeah.
And there are like 5 of them in the city of Lewiston. I had an opportunity to talk to the purchasing agent in the past 2 weeks and see if I got this right. So if it goes out to a realtor and it doesn't sell, city takes ownership?
City has ownership.
Has ownership.
So the statute provides that what happens if it goes, so if you put it on the market, and first of all, what if it's, let me back up a second. Most of these properties they're foreclosed because nobody wanted them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not always the case with a homeowner. There's often the case that homeowner may not be able to make the payments that the taxes would require. But if there's liens on that, typically what happens is that the lien holder will pay taxes so that it doesn't lose its priority and it doesn't lose its position. If it's gone to the point where nobody has stepped forward to make those, it's the rare case where the homeowner may not be able to make taxes and doesn't have any liens on the property. That's more rare. So a property that makes it to foreclosure is often doesn't have a lot of equity. And so the statute anticipates that a real estate agent may not want to bother with it because they only make money on commission if it's sold. And so there's a provision in the statute that if they go after, I think it's 3 licensed realtors, and they don't want to put it out for a listing agent, then you can go back to the process that sounds like you're remembering. That same fail-safe exists if the property's on the market for a year and doesn't sell.
That's no, what I came away with when I spoke with Mr. Ward was,
Yes.
I thought he said 18 months, but whether it's 12 months or 18 months, and that's usually one of the more derelict of properties in that case, or properties that are too small that you can't develop, and so on and so forth.
Presumably, yes.
And there is one notable property in Lewiston that I'm quite familiar with, that actually got sold in that process for well more than the liens. So the city's going to be dealing with how to get what do you call it? The
Surplus.
Well, the
Proceeds.
surplus, but the people who inherited the probate, whatever it would be called, because I know the person didn't owe as much as they got for it. They got a nice, pretty penny.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of glad that the city's not going to walk away with that surplus.
Mhm.
They're going to have to find a way to, the heirs couldn't come to an agreement amongst themselves. I guess somebody had to clean the liens, and the three of them didn't argue amongst themselves, so Dad's property just stayed out in limbo until it matured. And under the new Supreme Court ruling, it is what it is.
Mm.
But I wasn't aware of any of that at the last meeting, that had
Mhm.
changed.
Yeah.
And I think, was it a link? Maybe that's where I saw the Supreme Court rule. Okay, because I remember reading the first lengthy one. I didn't read Gorsuch's two-page one.
Yeah, no, it's, I think, 15, 20-page opinion, but.
I saw Mark had a follow-up. Is there anyone who hasn't asked a question yet that, okay.
I do have a question. What's the city's requirement if the properties are occupied? So I was driving by one this weekend, because it's on the road that my parents live on, and it looks like it's occupied.
Driving by
One of the foreclosed properties that's going to be going up for sale.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I can tell you what, I won't speak to any current case or
Right.
or hypotheticals. What I can tell you is that the statute doesn't anticipate any, it's
No.
it's just a property like any other property. So it's not, there's no difference to it. In their packet is a helpful something to the Maine Municipal Association, and so it suggests, and it's good advice, that if it's to kind of be cautious about the municipality taking rent, and the other thing that comes into play is the Maine Tort Claims Act, and so
Right.
generally municipality enjoys sovereign immunity. Essentially, it comes from the common law. The you can't sue the king, and so
Right.
there are a very limited number of exceptions to that. One of the exceptions is if there's a accident that happens in a building or pertinent to a building, and from that, if there's a provision, if you take a property by tax lien foreclosure, you have 60 days after the property becomes vacant to procure insurance, or liability then at that point would attach to the municipality.
Right, but that's only after it becomes vacant.
Exactly. It's not after the municipality learns that it becomes vacant, but after it becomes vacant, right? So there's a
Right.
challenge there. Those are really the provisions of statute that deal with that. It's kind of what the
Right,
policies and procedures would be. I can't
So
speak to.
if it goes to sale and somebody buys it and there's already an occupant that's
Which is-
squatting there essentially.
It's not, I
Kind of a-
wouldn't,
Kind of a bad deal on the
I wouldn't
purchaser's part, right?
I wouldn't imagine that, I wouldn't see squatting as the corollary. It happens all the time that properties are sold that the non-owners have possession of.
Yeah.
So this becomes just like another, that would typically more be in a commercial real estate situation. And so this here is the former owner who might be the subject of an eviction action. So the atmospherics are going to be different, the
Right.
experience is going to be different. But it's really not much different than another property that,
But the city wouldn't have a
Sold by-
liability at all to undertake any eviction or anything like that?
liability,
case?
no.
Okay.
There are,
Or
they would
obligation?
kind of follow the safe harbor in the Maine Tort Claims Act and kind of be wise to pay attention to that and understand the timeframes there. And some municipalities choose to add it to the insurance
Hmm.
because you just don't know.
in this particular market and in, the historical multifamily market, sometimes, particularly if things are moving quickly like they are in this market, having that house be rented, if the eventual buyer is looking to rent that as a property in their holding and not live in it, it can occasionally be an advantage. And there was a period post-2008 where we saw a lot of multifamilies changing hands oftentimes, and like tenant rights law being very separate from this conversation, but a lot of people didn't know that their building was turning over and that their leases, which might have gone month to month, are expired, and they were making regular payments, and still there was like a foreclosure and somebody wasn't paying. And so there's a lot of ways to deal with the occupants, and sometimes it's a benefit for them to be there. It's not always the case by any stretch, but there are circumstances where that's an advantage for the city to say it's fully occupied, it has this much cash flow, would love to get it out before 60 days, let's close.
Right.
Not common, but.
Oh, it's not a rental.
Yeah. Everybody's renting houses.
It could
Is it
be.
a commercial?
No, it's a residential.
A lot of folks are renting residential single families now.
No, it's a long-time owner.
Like
Yeah.
you knew the person who was.
Oh, yeah,
inside.
yeah.
You know the story.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Were there other questions for Mike since he's spending his Monday evening with us?
No?
Shelley, did that feel like it answered the questions that rose up last time?
Yes, it did.
Great. Did you have one more thing? I felt like I saw some side action.
No. I came up with a scheme, though, a money-making scheme.
We should probably close the meeting before we bring that up. Yeah, we
Don't
have
say
Mike at
anything
scheme,
while we're
thanks.
on being recorded.
Yeah, thank you for your time very much.
Great.
We
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
And thanks for the reference materials. I would say for what it's worth, in our cute little 3-ring binder we get when we become planning board members, this would be a handy addendum to stick in there.
Yep.
Save you and Mike this whole conversation in a future point someday. All right. Is there any other business that folks would like to add? Please do.
Yeah, so I was at the Lewiston Farmers Market a couple of weekends ago, and there was a representative from the City of Auburn's planning office there talking about their comp plan, which they're revising right now. And I suggested that perhaps we could talk planning board to planning board, or even staff to staff, about what's going on, because we're in a regional situation here. A lot of services and a lot of amenities are shared between the two communities. So this staff person seemed into it and amenable to it, and I just wanted to let the board know that I talked to someone, and maybe have a formal request to staff to talk to the head of planning over there and see if we can get something.
I know that you guys do regularly. Has there been a conversation about the comp planning process recently that the two cities have shared?
Other than me knowing that they're going through the comp plan process, no. Is there a specific ask in terms of something the planning board wants to see come back to you regarding this?
I've got thoughts. I can wait to contribute.
Sure.
What are you learning in your process would be helpful, particularly in the areas that you're engaging with, like big business, commercial development, because I think homeowners tend to make a very personal choice, but lots of other folks are looking very regionally. Not that residential folks aren't looking at both communities. So I'd be intrigued by what are you learning in the process. But I feel like we've been putting a lot of discussion into the PUDs, and Auburn keeps coming up as a reference. So if you wanted to have a tangible conversation about how they apply that there, what they might change if they were revisiting it, it seems like a very timely topic for us to discuss. I feel like you or someone on your team did some specific research related to the materials you were presenting us around the PUD, and so perhaps a planning board conversation, even if it's with staff and not their whole planning board. Those are just two things that I think are relevant. Others?
No, I think that'd be a good idea.
No?
When I saw their display at the farmers market, they had sort of the, idea board where you put the dots on it. And it seemed like most of the Auburn residents who had put dots on this poster were really interested in bikeability, walking, transportation, public transportation, things like that. And those are most definitely things where, you don't want a sidewalk that ends halfway over a bridge. So, you know, it's
And
a,
aligned with people who also go to farmers markets.
yes,
So
yeah,
maybe
no,
not the
so.
same feedback from a different event.
Oh, of course, yeah, a little biased there, but you know, there were many other topics on there that I would have expected more feedback from the average farmer's market. You know, there was a section on like food sovereignty and just nothing. No comments, no nothing. It was all over in transportation. So, yeah, I think, you know, any parts that they're looking at that, you know, sort of work with street design, you know, feel. We've done a lot of that, I think, talking about like how our downtown feels and, you know, if Auburn has.
I know they've been looking at bike ped. We have a shared bike ped committee that
Yeah.
serves both communities. I know some of the conversations are picking back up about greenway usage of the rail lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think about some of the spaces where infrastructure, we were really engaged as a planning board with the Riverfront Island Master Plan, and there are some assumptions built into the Riverfront Island Master Plan that do cross the river, right? Whether it's a walking bridge or a zip line or
Yeah.
just the water line infrastructure of which now a walking path is going to walk around, as
Yeah.
some examples.
So maybe like as sort of an offering from us to them of like, has the Auburn Planning Board seen a presentation of the Riverfront Island Master Plan? And if not, maybe we could give it to them and be there to answer questions and talk about it that way. Just because that is, to your point, like, you know, very close.
Yeah, it's an interfacing,
Mm-hmm.
integrated spot.
Also, you know, it wouldn't hurt to discuss with them housing. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we talk about, we need X amount of housing units, and, you know, we need workforce housing, and we know this and that. So if we, not necessarily coordinate, but discuss, what are they planning?
Yeah.
What are they talking about? And especially with the PUDs and stuff, you know, talk about that a lot, I think, because that's I think would be helpful for the general public if we had more consensus on maybe how we're doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say from the perspective of somebody who works every day in a regional way across the county, and there is kind of a disproportionate representation of Auburn and Lewiston in that work because it is larger by a whole bunch of metrics, right? It'd be really great to find ways at the citizen civic level as well as staff levels to look for even just building relationships and sharing information. I know it's a big lift to think that we'd get to like decision making together, but I think just starting some common conversations would be really great.
Yeah, I think thinking about the housing discussion too, you know, I know there was a sort of a contentious referendum in Auburn, what was that, 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
About changing the rural agricultural zone that they had, which was very unique in how it was set up in the state. And then also changing how they sort of approached businesses and housing sort of in their denser downtown neighborhoods. And, you know, with the denser downtown neighborhood zoning question, that sort of reminds me of all the talk we've had of the neighborhood restaurants and neighborhood shops. So, you know, seeing alignment there, you know, if people want to start a business, being able to sort of think about your business being, you know, you start a corner store in Lewiston and it does well and you want to have a second location, you could do the same thing in Auburn. You know, they're being held to the same standard. And then I think also with rural agricultural, that's another one that's good to have coordination on because, you know, often, you know, you look at this on a national level, if you have two communities and one has, you know, stronger, you know, a stronger rural district that's, you know, more, you know, about keeping it one use, and another community that's maybe loosening that, you get a lot of bad or, you know, sort of poor development choices because things, you know, there's, I don't know how to say this, I'm trying to think. You know, you end up with an imbalance, right? You know, it's very easy to turn a farm field into a warehouse in one community and a little harder in another community. All the warehouses will be in the one community where it's easier. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Helpful as a starting point for you, Michelle?
That is, thank you.
Yeah. Any other business? Record meeting tonight, friends. I would move us to reading of the minutes and seek
Motion to adopt the July 28th minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. Amy, seconded. Any discussion of the minutes? Can you call the roll, please?
Michael Marcotte,
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Mark Roy,
Yes.
Shanna Cox,
Yes.
Amy Smith,
Yes.
and Alexander Pine.
Yes. Oh, don't we need to add someone as a member for this?
Oh,
Oh,
right.
and it would be Zoe because Penthea was Zoe.
Yes.
Okay.
Let the record reflect that in Roger's absence, Zoe was voting member tonight.
Yep.
Thank you.
Put that at the beginning, though, if you. can
Motion
get that in
to
there.
adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes. Yay.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Are we on for August 25th?
At this point in time, I'm still determining if we have business or not.
Okay.
So there will be an email going
Just
out.
for you and you.
From what?
Yes, I'm arriving back in the state on an airplane at 1 PM. And I have every plan to attend. I don't know that Delta's going to plan the same way with me. So I'll just keep you updated.
What airport are you coming in from?
We're coming in from DCA to PWM. They've been pretty good. I don't like Dulles, I'll win. Try to avoid.
All right.
Yeah, no, everybody. I'm trying to do more.